Welcome back. Adams & Adams is joining the global intellectual property community in observing World Intellectual Property Day, an annual event that highlights how intellectual property fuels innovation, creativity, as well as economic progress. This year's theme, Women in IP Accelerating Innovation and Creativity, puts the spotlight on the contributions of women in the IP space, while also drawing attention to the barriers that still exist. According to the World Intellectual Property Organization, women made up of just 16% of inventors listed in international patent applications in 2022. I'm joined now by Marcelle Samons, an associate at Adams & Adams. Marcelle, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening. One other theme that's being expressed is IP and music feel the beat of IP. Just talk to us about why today is important with regards to acknowledging intellectual property rights and what it means in the global economy.
Thank you for having me, Katlego. Yes, indeed, today we are celebrating World Intellectual Property Day. So the World Intellectual Property Organization started observing this day in the year 2000 to just raise awareness about intellectual property in our everyday lives. So Mr. Darren Tang, the Director General of WIPO, said that when they chose the theme for this year, they wanted to choose something relatable. And it therefore comes as no surprise that music is central to this year's theme.
And maybe just talking about how intellectual property has evolved since its inception and just over time, and how we're seeing various businesses interact with IP now in today's terms.
Yes, so just as the business landscape is very sophisticated, so IP has also evolved in the modern era, specifically in the digital age. So as being as a member of Gen Z, I myself am very excited about the interplay between intellectual property and social media, and that we are increasingly seeing instances of this interplay.
I mean, we'll come to the issue of social media, but I just want us to further explore, like you're speaking of the digital space, and also just the complexities and the challenges that are faced by intellectual property. I mean, one such example was that very popular Jerusalem song by Master KG as well as Nomcebo Zikode, and that showed some of the complexities around IP and certainly having to understand how it really works.
Yes, so maybe just as a general point of departure, intellectual property is really an umbrella term that refers to different forms of intellectual property. So that includes patents, designs, copyright, trademark, know-how. So in the music industry, if I can think of examples, so a patent will protect an invention. So an example of a patent in this industry is a foldable electric guitar, which was invented to fit underneath the chair of a commercial plane. And then a design really protects the function or appearance of a feature as applied to an article. So this can be a pattern with a specific aesthetic appeal as applied to, like a headset or earphones. Then we move to copyright, and this is what you are moving to. So copyright protects original works which has been reduced to material form. So there are different types of works. So you get literary works, which can, for instance, cover lyrics. You get artistic works, which can protect photographs, which are used on the cover of an album, for instance. Then musical work. Musical work is also protected in terms of copyright. And then another example would be a sound recording. So essentially, copyright would then allow you to control the work and to prevent others from using the work without your permission or without remunerating you. So yes, with regards to the Jerusalem case, one of the partners in our firm, Mr. Stephen Hollis, is representing DJ Charmza in the matter between DJ Charmza and Master KG. So because music is so relatable, just to get back to the theme of today, I do think that's the exact reason why this case has garnered such significant media attention. So essentially, just for the benefit of the listeners, even though this has been widely publicized, these two parties are in legal dispute about the ownership of the hit song Jerusalema. So the matter is set down for trial for November of this year. And in this regard, I can only reiterate the views of Mr. Hollis. And Mr. Hollis says this is more than a copyright infringement case. It goes to the heart of the South African music industry, an industry that is faced with rampant infringements that often go over without any consequences. So we are positive that a positive verdict can mean a lot in the South African context.
And why is that so, Marcelle? Is it because there's a lack of awareness and enough education around all the different types of intellectual properties that you've just explained? Is it expensive for you even to protect your intellectual property? Why do we find that especially artists find themselves in these situations more often than not?
So lack of awareness is definitely a big problem, and that's why I believe a day like today is very special. As soon as someone is aware of intellectual property rights, we do see that they exploit intellectual property rights for themselves, for the benefit of themselves, but also for the benefit of the greater economy. And this is not only in the creative industries. I would actually say in creative industries, there's a greater awareness of intellectual property rights. But this also applies to SMEs across the economy. Yes, what's interesting is that while some forms of intellectual property is registrable, copyright vests automatically. The problem is usually when a pen goes to paper without reading what is on the paper. So whatever you create, you should own. It's just that you should be mindful that it is possible to assign what you own. Yes. And then I hope that answered your question.
It certainly does. And I think I want to go back to what you mentioned earlier with regards to social media. I just want you maybe to just touch on how it plays in terms of not only the protection, but also the violation of intellectual property.
Yes. So just an example, last year we saw a TikTok user, Jules LeBron, who coined the phrase very demure, very mindful while creating content on TikTok. And this video went very viral. Subsequent to that, many social media users used this phrase, but generally the phrase was associated with LeBron. Sadly, shortly after that, an unrelated third party filed a trademark application in the United States for the exact phrase. This raised awareness among social media users that when they create content, they actually can create intellectual property, which they must be mindful of because this is something that they can exploit. So yes, there are many opportunities when it comes to social media, but there are unfortunately also many challenges. We have seen an upsurge in infringements, specifically in the online environment. So, the battleground is really digital right now. It's easier than ever to sell anything. Yes, so we are mindful of we keep an eye on social media and we try to address infringements. A lot of positive steps have been taken in this regard.
And what are the implications of that non-compliance with intellectual property laws, both for individuals as well as businesses?
Yes, so you're at risk of many different things. So firstly, the owner of intellectual property must take steps to enforce their rights. If you do not enforce your rights will dilute, meaning that you might lose your right to a specific intellectual property. So as the infringer, even if you are not aware of intellectual property rights, you will most likely receive a letter of demand. If you comply, you can get off without too much harm, but that's not a position that you want to put yourself in, especially if you're a social media influencer. You want to create an awareness of intellectual property, that you are serious about your brand, and that you also respect other people's brands.
Most certainly. Just then give us, Marcelle, some practical advice for businesses and individuals how to better protect their intellectual property, especially in the current economy.
So I think for businesses, specifically SMEs, before you start, before you actually start, before you launch, you must think what makes your business unique. Whatever that is, protect that. So if you have a white label product that you won't really brand, you might look to patents or designs because your product is unique in some type of way, and that gives you a competitive advantage. If you are, for instance, manufacturing and selling clothing and the branding is important, you will look to trademarks and copyright. If you are a content creator, it's important to know that you can protect your own brand. So you can register your account handle, for instance, as a trademark. The content that you are creating is most likely enjoying copyright protection. So I think in that regard, it's just important to ensure that your followers and your clients know that you are aware of your intellectual property rights and that you also intend on protecting theirs and respecting theirs.
And that's so important. Marcelle, thank you so much for joining us on this World Intellectual Property Day. It certainly has been insightful. That was Marcelle Samons, an associate at Adams & Adams. Now, the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Disaster Management Centre is closely monitoring the situation after a level 4 warning for disruptive rainfall and localized flooding was issued. That and more up next. Do stay with us.